Admiral Kira Nakamura stood at the window of the International Space Defense Command, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she gazed at the Tokyo skyline. 30 years of military service hadn't prepared her for this moment. The holographic display behind her showed what her analysts had discovered just hours ago, 12 perfectly camouflaged objects in Earth's orbit, each emitting subtle energy signatures that shouldn't have been detectable by human technology. But humanity had gotten paranoid after the Mars incident of 2042, when a simple asteroid nearly wiped out the colony. That paranoia had led to the development of the quantum detection grid, a system so sensitive it could detect a meteor the size of a tennis ball from half a solar system away. Now that same system had revealed something far more troubling. How long? Kira asked, not turning around. Marcus Rodriguez, her chief of analytics, cleared his throat. Based on the decay patterns in their energy signatures, at least 300 years, Admiral. Maybe longer. Kira's jaw tightened. 300 years. These vessels had been watching humanity since before the Industrial Revolution. Every major breakthrough, every war, every triumph and failure, all observed by unseen eyes. And we're certain they're artificial? Yes, ma'am. The positioning is too perfect, the energy signatures too regular. This is surveillance, and it's far beyond our current capabilities. Kira finally turned, facing the assembled group of military leaders and scientists in her command center. Options? Dr. James Wilson, head of Xenological Studies, stepped forward. We could attempt communication. Their presence suggests they're studying us, which means they might be open to dash. Absolutely not, interrupted General Helena Santos of the South American Defense Coalition. We know nothing about their intentions. For all we know, they've been waiting for us to reach a certain technological threshold before they strike. Or perhaps they're peaceful observers, Dr. Wilson countered. Making hostile assumptions could dash. Could save our species, Kira cut in. We're dealing with a civilization capable of keeping themselves hidden from us for centuries. They have technology we can barely comprehend. If their intentions were purely peaceful, why hide? The room fell silent. On the holographic display, one of the alien vessels shifted slightly, adjusting its orbit with precision that made human spacecraft look primitive by comparison. What if? Lieutenant Commander Aisha Patel's voice was quiet but firm. Everyone turned to the young officer, who had been studying the data streams intently. What if we disappeared? Explain, Kira commanded. Aisha stood, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. These vessels are watching us, studying our development. But what if we gave them nothing to study? What if we made them think we died out? The room erupted in murmurs. Dr. Wilson scoffed. You're suggesting we fake the extinction of our entire species? That's dash. Brilliant, Kira finished, a slow smile spreading across her face. If we can't match their technology, we change the game entirely. The next few hours were a blur of planning. The idea was insane, but the more they developed it, the more possible it seemed. Earth's nations had already been working on global disaster scenarios since the Mars incident. They had protocols, bunkers, and most importantly, they had the Chimera Protocol, an experimental system designed to create the illusion of widespread catastrophe through a combination of advanced holographics, atmospheric manipulation, and carefully orchestrated electromagnetic disruptions. It was designed to fool enemy satellites during wartime, General Santos explained, warming to the idea. With some modifications, we could scale it up. Make it look like a genuine extinction-level event. Marcus pulled up more data. We'll need to make it believable. These observers have centuries of data on human civilization. Whatever we do has to fit with their understanding of our capabilities and weaknesses. A plague, Dr. Wilson suggested, surprising everyone. The xenologist had shifted from skeptic to contributor, his scientific mind already working on the problem. Something that could plausibly arise from our own research. We have enough data on experimental pathogens to create a convincing scenario. Kira nodded, her military training kicking in as she began organizing the impossible task ahead. We'll need total cooperation from every nation. Complete media blackout. Controlled information leaks to make it look natural. And we'll need to maintain the deception for years, maybe decades. The bunkers under the Pacific Rim can house millions, General Santos added. The deep-sea facilities too. We've been preparing for apocalypse scenarios since the 2030s. And the rest of the population? Dr. Wilson asked. Hidden in plain sight, Aisha suggested. We maintain minimal surface activity, carefully shielded from their sensors. Underground cities, deep-sea habitats, camouflaged settlements in remote areas. We let them see exactly what we want them to see, a dead world. Kira studied the faces around her. The idea was audacious, perhaps the greatest deception ever attempted in human history. But as she looked at the alien vessels on the display, she knew they had no choice. Humanity wasn't ready for first contact, not on their terms. But maybe, just maybe, they could buy themselves time to prepare for it on their own terms. Get me the Security Council, she ordered. And contact every major head of state. Operation Ghostlight begins now. As her staff scrambled to action, Kira turned back to the window, watching the sun set over Tokyo. In the gathering darkness, she could almost imagine those hidden watchers above, their sensors trained on Earth, studying, waiting. Soon they would have quite a show to watch, humanity's greatest performance, an extinction that never was. Little did they know, this was just the beginning. Humanity would rise from its self-imposed ashes, not as the primitive species they had been watching, but as something far more dangerous, a civilization that had learned to hide, to deceive, and to prepare. The Watchers thought they were observing humanity's end. Instead, they were about to witness its greatest transformation. 3 months after the discovery, Dr. Isabella Reyes stood in the control center of the Chimera Protocol facility beneath the Andes Mountains, watching as humanity prepared to vanish. On the massive screens before her, real-time data streamed in from every corner of the globe. Cities were being systematically evacuated, in reality, transitioning to their underground counterparts in a carefully choreographed dance of deception. Atmospheric modulation systems are online, reported her assistant, Wei Chen, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. Regional weather patterns are being adjusted to mask the thermal signatures of the population transfers. Isabella nodded, her eyes fixed on the primary display where a countdown timer slowly ticked away. Humanity had exactly 48 hours to disappear. The first phase of Operation Ghostlight, the subtle withdrawal of millions into prepared shelters, had taken weeks. Now came the hard part, making it look like they'd all died. Status report from Admiral Nakamura, Wei announced, bringing up a secure communication channel. The Admiral's hologram appeared, her expression grim but determined. Pacific Rim facilities are ready. Deep-sea habitats are at 90% capacity. How's our digital ghost? Isabella gestured to another screen where lines of code scrolled endlessly. The virus simulation is perfect. When we release it, our observers will see exactly what we want them to see, an engineered pathogen that mutates faster than we can contain it. Combined with the atmospheric distortions and the electromagnetic chaos we're about to unleash, it should be quite convincing. It better be, Nakamura replied. We only get one shot at this. The plan was elaborate but elegant in its horror. The virus would appear to emerge from a research facility, humanity's hubris coming back to haunt them. As it spread, the Chimera Protocol would create the illusion of societal collapse through carefully controlled power outages, communication breakdowns, and atmospheric disturbances that would mask the heat signatures of the real human population moving underground. General Santos reports South American bunker networks are sealed, Wei updated. European deep cities are going dark sector by sector. African desert facilities are completely off-grid. Isabella checked the time. 47 hours until they pulled the trigger. Around the world, millions of people were playing their parts in this grand deception. Some would maintain minimal surface activity in carefully shielded locations, creating just enough movement to suggest the last desperate struggles of a dying species. Others would operate the vast underground networks that would become humanity's true home for the foreseeable future. Breakthrough in the holographic distortion field, announced Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the lead physicist for the project. She pulled up a new simulation. We found a way to make the atmospheric effects appear more natural. When the aliens scan the planet, they'll see exactly what a world-ending pandemic should look like. Isabella walked to the central platform where a three-dimensional model of Earth slowly rotated. Red dots showed the locations of the alien surveillance vessels. Soon, those watchers would witness what they thought was humanity's final act. Begin the media phase, she ordered. Across the planet, carefully crafted news reports began to leak. Social media erupted with seemingly organic panic about a new disease. Emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming. Governments issued statements that grew progressively more desperate. To any observer, it would look like the chaotic spread of devastating news. "Admiral," Isabella called, "are the space stations ready?" "All personnel have been evacuated except for the volunteer teams," Nakamura confirmed. "When the time comes, they'll broadcast the final distress signals before returning in the stealth shuttles." The space station crews were perhaps the bravest of all. They would be closest to the alien vessels, their every move potentially scrutinized. Their performance had to be flawless. As the hours ticked by, humanity withdrew deeper into its hidden sanctuaries. Underground farms powered by geothermal energy were already producing food. Water recycling systems hummed to life. Children were taught in subterranean schools while their parents operated the machinery that would keep their species alive. 30 minutes to primary sequence, Wei announced. Isabella took a deep breath. Around her, the control center hummed with tension. Decades of preparation, billions in resources, and the future of human civilization all came down to the next few hours. "Launch the viral signature," she commanded. Across the globe, carefully designed atmospheric particles began to spread, creating the illusion of a deadly contagion. Power grids began to fail in seemingly random patterns. Communications networks collapsed. And from carefully chosen locations, the last apparent vestiges of humanity broadcast their final, desperate messages. "This is the World Health Organization. The virus has mutated beyond our ability to contain. All attempts at a vaccine have failed. God help us all. Military forces are overwhelmed. Quarantine zones have been breached. The infection rate is beyond anything we've ever seen. This is humanity's final warning, Earth is lost. Do not attempt rescue. The contagion is too dangerous. Remember us, but do not follow." As the messages echoed into space, the Chimera protocol reached its crescendo. Atmospheric disturbances masked the heat signatures of billions of humans now hidden safely underground. Power grids went dark continent by continent. And in orbit, the space stations broadcast their last transmissions before their crews slipped away in vessels designed to be invisible even to advanced alien sensors. Isabella watched as the planet that had been humanity's only home for millennia appeared to die. But in the vast networks of bunkers, deep-sea habitats, and underground cities, humanity was more alive than ever. They had traded the open sky for the chance to develop on their own terms, to prepare for the day when they would emerge not as a primitive species to be studied, but as equals. "Operation Ghostlight is complete," Wei reported softly. "As far as our observers are concerned, humanity is extinct." Isabella nodded, her eyes fixed on the screens showing their watchers in orbit. "No," she corrected. "We're just getting started." 50 years after Operation Ghostlight, Commander Maya Patel stood in the observation dome of New Athens, one of humanity's largest underground cities. Through an ingenious system of quantum mirrors and light channels, the dome provided a real-time view of the surface world above, a world that appeared devastated and lifeless to any watching eyes, while beneath it, humanity thrived. "Hard to believe it's been half a century," said Director Omar al-Rashid, joining her at the viewport. The aging scientist had been just a junior researcher during the Great Deception. Now he headed the Global Technology Integration Council, coordinating humanity's technological advancement across their hidden network of cities. "Sometimes I wonder if we made the right choice," Maya mused, watching the carefully maintained illusion of devastation above. "An entire generation has grown up never seeing a real sky." Omar smiled. "But look what that generation has accomplished." He gestured to the city below them. New Athens housed over 5 million people in a vast network of interconnected chambers and tunnels. But it wasn't the size that was impressive, it was the technology. Without the need to maintain appearances for their alien observers, humanity had been free to develop in directions they never could have on the surface. "Latest breakthrough from the quantum labs," Omar said, pulling up a holographic display. "True gravity manipulation. The deep-sea colonies are already implementing it to expand their habitats." Maya nodded. The undersea cities had perhaps advanced the most, using the ocean's natural shielding to mask their energy signatures while they pushed the boundaries of human innovation. "And the space program? See for yourself." Omar changed the display to show a massive construction project taking place in a hidden crater on the far side of the moon. "The Prometheus fleet will be ready within 5 years. 12 ships, each capable of interstellar travel. All built with technology reverse-engineered from studying our watchers." That had been humanity's greatest advantage, the ability to observe those who thought they were observing a dead world. Every adjustment of their surveillance vessels, every subtle energy signature, had been analyzed and decoded by scientists eager to understand their capabilities. "Admiral Nakamura would be proud," Maya said softly, remembering the architect of their great deception. The admiral had passed away 10 years ago, but not before seeing her gamble pay off. Humanity hadn't just survived underground, they had flourished. The lift behind them hummed, and Dr. Kai Zhang, head of the Xenological Defense Initiative, joined them. "You need to see this," he said without preamble, his expression intense. On the holographic display, a new image appeared, one of the alien surveillance vessels was moving. After 50 years of nearly static observation, the change was shocking. "They're leaving?" Maya asked, leaning forward. "Not just leaving," Kai replied. "They're preparing to declare Earth officially dead. Our long-range sensors picked up a transmission to what we believe is their governing body. They're recommending our system be marked as a quarantine zone and abandoned." Omar laughed. "Perfect timing." Maya raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "The Prometheus fleet, our quantum shielding technology, the gravity drives, it's all coming together now. We're ready. Not just to survive, but to emerge." The three of them stood in silence, watching the alien vessel prepare to depart. Below them, in the vast underground city, millions of humans went about their lives. In similar facilities around the world, billions more worked, lived, and advanced their civilization in ways their ancestors could never have imagined. The Great Deception had changed humanity in profound ways. The need for absolute secrecy had fostered unprecedented cooperation between nations. The challenge of building underground civilizations had driven innovation at an incredible pace. And the constant presence of their unknown watchers had instilled a deep appreciation for subtlety and strategy. "Begin Phase 4, Maya commanded, her voice carrying the weight of authority that came from commanding humanity's combined defense forces. Alert all facilities. Operation Ghostlight is entering its final stage." Throughout the hidden networks of human civilization, the message spread. In deep-sea cities and underground metropolises, in polar bases and desert bunkers, humanity began to prepare for their greatest challenge yet, revealing themselves to a galaxy that thought them long dead. "The surface restoration teams are ready," Kai reported. We can begin gradually removing signs of devastation, making it appear as if Earth is slowly healing itself. By the time anyone thinks to check on us again, we'll be ready to present ourselves as, well, as something entirely unexpected. Maya smiled. A species that rose from its own ashes, advanced enough to hide itself from superior technology, united enough to maintain a deception for half a century, and clever enough to use their observers as unwitting teachers. The galaxy won't know what hit them, Omar added with a grin. As they watched, the alien vessel finally began to move away from its long-held position. Its departure marked the beginning of the end, not of humanity, but of their self-imposed isolation. Soon, they would emerge from their hidden worlds, not as the primitive species that had been watched and studied, but as something far more formidable. Send word to the Prometheus fleet, Maya ordered. Begin Finn. The Galactic Council's Grand Chamber was considered the most secure facility in known space. Located in the heart of the Centauri Nexus, it was protected by energy fields powerful enough to deflect asteroids and scanning systems that could detect a single unauthorized microbe. Which made it all the more shocking when a human ship simply appeared inside its defensive perimeter. High Chancellor Vexterra, supreme leader of the Council, was in the middle of a speech about trade regulations when the ship materialized. The massive vessel, sleek and dark as midnight, hung in space like a predator that had always been there, watching. Its sudden appearance sent the Council's defense systems into chaos. Impossible, whispered First Speaker Tal, their crystalline form vibrating with alarm. Our shields are impressive, came a calm human voice over all communication channels simultaneously. But ultimately predictable when you've had 50 years to study similar technology. The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives from 100 species began shouting questions, demands, and threats. Security forces scrambled uselessly, their weapons couldn't target something their systems insisted couldn't exist. A single figure materialized in the center of the chamber. Captain Diana Chen of the Earth vessel Prometheus stood calmly in her dress uniform, a slight smile on her face as she surveyed the chaos around her. My apologies for the dramatic entrance, she said, her voice carrying easily over the din, but we felt it was time for a proper introduction. You can't be here, Vexterra managed, their normally composed diplomatic demeanor shattered. Earth is dead. The plague was an exceptionally elaborate performance, Diana finished. One that your surveillance vessels watched exactly as we intended. The chamber fell silent. In the viewport behind Diana, more ships began to appear, the rest of the Prometheus fleet, each one a masterpiece of engineering that combined human innovation with technology reverse-engineered from studying their watchers. You see, Diana continued, pacing slowly around the chamber, when we detected your observation platforms all those years ago, we faced a choice. We could announce ourselves as we were, a primitive species barely reaching for the stars. Or you could deceive the entire galaxy, Tal finished, their crystalline form shifting colors rapidly with emotion. Diana nodded. We chose to buy ourselves time. Time to develop, to advance, to prepare, all while using your own surveillance technology to learn about you. Every scan your vessels made of Earth taught us something. Every transmission they sent helped us understand your capabilities. The chamber's AI projected a series of images, Earth as it truly was now, its surface restored and thriving, but hiding vast underground cities and deep-sea habitats that rivaled anything in the galaxy. Quantum shipyards on the dark side of the moon. Research facilities inside hollowed-out asteroids. Impossible, someone whispered. No species could maintain such a deception. That's where you're wrong, Diana replied. The threat of extinction, real or perceived, has a way of uniting people. Every human on Earth understood the stakes. Every child born in our hidden cities grew up knowing that our survival depended on absolute secrecy. We turned your observation into our advantage. Vexterra had finally regained some composure. And now? Why reveal yourselves? Because we're ready. Diana's smile widened slightly. Ready to join galactic society, not as a primitive species to be studied and potentially conquered, but as equals. We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment. On the screens, more data appeared, human achievements in quantum physics, biotechnology, space travel. Innovations that had developed in directions no other species had considered, driven by the unique circumstances of their hidden existence. This is unprecedented, Tal said, their color shifting to a deep blue of contemplation. No species has ever hidden themselves so completely. Turned surveillance into education. Emerged not as students but as peers. Diana shrugged. Perhaps that's because no one else had the advantage of watching their watchers. Every species here developed under observation, knowing they were part of a larger galactic community. We developed in secret, using your own technology to learn while giving nothing away in return. The chamber had fallen into a stunned silence. Representatives from across the galaxy stared at this human who had appeared in their most secure facility, representing a species that had pulled off the greatest deception in galactic history. We come with an offer, Diana said, her voice taking on a more formal tone. Earth wishes to establish diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. We bring innovations and perspectives that could benefit all species. We also bring a warning, our deception proves that your current methods of surveillance and species assessment have significant vulnerabilities. Vexterra leaned forward. Are you threatening us, Captain Chen? Not at all, Chancellor. We're offering to help you improve. After all, if one primitive species could fool you so completely, what else might you be missing? The implications hung in the air like a physical presence. Every representative in the chamber was surely thinking the same thing. If humans could hide themselves so effectively, could other species be doing the same? Welcome back from the dead, Captain, Vexterra said finally, their voice dry. I believe we have much to discuss. Diana nodded, her mission accomplished. Behind her, the Prometheus fleet hung in space, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The galaxy was about to learn that the species they had written off as extinct was very much alive, and had used their time in hiding to become something far more interesting than anyone could have imagined. The week following humanity's dramatic appearance in the Galactic Council became known as the 7 Days of Chaos. Every major species in the galaxy was forced to reevaluate not just their understanding of humanity, but their entire approach to emerging civilizations. Ambassador Marcus Chen, no relation to Captain Diana Chen, sat in his newly established office in the diplomatic quarter of the Centauri Nexus, reviewing the latest round of proposals and demands flooding in from various species. The wall of holographic screens before him displayed everything from threats to alliance offers to trade proposals. The Arxer Collective is particularly interested in our quantum shielding technology, his AI assistant, Aria, reported. They've offered exclusive mining rights in 3-star systems. Added to the polite decline list, Marcus replied, taking a sip of actual Earth coffee, a luxury he'd insisted on bringing. We're not giving anyone exclusive access to anything. That was the core of humanity's emergence strategy. After 50 years of secret development, they had innovations that every species wanted. But instead of playing favorites, they were positioning themselves as neutral partners, willing to work with all but be controlled by none. A soft chime announced the arrival of first speaker Tal, their crystalline form shimmering with what Marcus had learned to recognize as diplomatic anxiety. Ambassador, Tal began, the Council has concerns. When don't they? Marcus smiled, gesturing to a chair specially designed for Tal's unique physiology. But please, continue. Your species' deception, while impressive, has created significant trust issues. How can we be certain you won't simply disappear again? How can any treaty with Earth be verified when you've proven so capable of hiding? Marcus leaned back, considering his response. First speaker, let me ask you something. In the 50 years that we maintained our deception, did we ever once attack another species? Did we interfere with galactic politics? Did we do anything except ensure our own survival and development? Tall's crystalline form shifted colors thoughtfully. No, but... We hid because we had to, Marcus continued. Your surveillance vessels gave us two choices: emerge as primitives to be studied and potentially dominated, or buy ourselves time to emerge as equals. We chose the latter. Now that we have no reason to hide. Some species are calling for sanctions, Tall noted. They feel the deception was a violation of galactic law. Marcus laughed. Which law? The ones that apply to recognized species. We weren't officially part of galactic society then. We were simply a primitive world choosing not to advertise our existence. Before Tall could respond, a new alert flashed across the screens. The Vril Empire, one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, had just announced they were conducting an emergency audit of all their surveilled worlds. And so it begins, Marcus murmured. How many other species out there might be hiding, I wonder? How many watched us fool you for 50 years and thought, we could do that too? Tall's color shifted to deep purple, alarm. You're suggesting. I'm not suggesting anything, Marcus said smoothly. I'm merely pointing out that humanity's success might inspire others. Perhaps it's time for the Council to reconsider its approach to emerging civilizations. Less surveillance, more open dialogue. In the space outside his office window, Marcus could see the Prometheus fleet in formation, a constant reminder to everyone that the supposedly dead species had not only survived but thrived. Earth ships now docked openly at galactic ports, human traders were establishing contacts across known space, and Earth's long-hidden innovations were becoming the most sought-after technologies in the galaxy. The Council is prepared to offer Earth full membership, Tall said finally. With certain conditions, of course. Of course, Marcus nodded. And we're prepared to accept, with conditions of our own. Starting with a complete overhaul of how the galaxy approaches first contact. A new alert flashed. Another species had apparently just discovered surveillance devices in their system and was demanding answers. The ripples of humanity's deception were spreading. Your revelation has created quite a mess, Tall observed. Change usually does, Marcus replied. But consider this, in 50 years of isolation, we advanced more rapidly than we might have under observation. We developed technologies in ways no one expected because we weren't following established galactic patterns. Perhaps a little chaos is exactly what the galaxy needs. He stood and walked to the window, watching the endless stream of ships moving through the Nexus. Humanity had changed the game, not through force or conquest, but through patience, ingenuity, and the courage to take the harder path. The galaxy wanted to study us, Marcus continued. Instead, we studied you. We learned your strengths, your weaknesses, your blind spots. And now we're offering to help you fix them. The question is, first speaker, is the Council ready to admit it might have something to learn from the species it thought was dead? Tall's form shifted through a rainbow of colors before settling on a deep gold, acceptance. The Council has scheduled an emergency session to discuss reforms to first contact protocols. We would appreciate Earth's input. Marcus smiled. This was just the beginning. Humanity had emerged not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as teachers offering new perspectives. The galaxy would never be quite the same, and that was exactly what they had planned all along. Schedule the session, he said. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do, not by hiding, but by leading. Outside, another Earth ship materialized in the Nexus, its quantum drives humming with technology that had been developed in secret. But now those secrets were becoming something else, bridges to a future where humanity's greatest deception led to the galaxy's greatest transformation.